To reach Chris, call 226-3933. 226-3933. Now, giving you something to talk about, here's Chris Story.
Harry Homesteader here with a message for all you new arrivals to Alaska. Don't try to change Alaska to be like where you came from. If it's so damn good back home, we invite you to return. Harry Homesteader, out.
Well, I couldn't agree with Harry more. You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. You know you're an Alaskan when all of your relatives refer to you as that crazy guy up there in Alaska, or gal. Your kids think you've got to board an airplane to go on vacation. Freezing, 32 degrees? Yeah, good time to wash the car. That's when you know you're an Alaskan. You only have 4 spices in your kitchen. That would be salt, pepper, ketchup, and Tabasco. Tabasco's not a spice, moron. You design your Halloween costume to fit over a snowsuit, and I've actually done that, not for myself, but for my daughter, and then taken your kids trick-or-treating in a blizzard. Oh, yeah, done that. You know you're an Alaskan when you look forward to winter because the potholes are filled in with snow. Yeah, that's true also. You owe more money on your snowmobile than on your car, and actually it's a snow machine, so clearly whoever wrote that wasn't an Alaskan. You owe more money on your snow machine than you do on your car, and that's getting easier and easier to do. That's crazy. Okay, you know you're an Alaskan when at least twice a year the kitchen doubles as a meat processing plant. This definitely applies to last year. You know you're an Alaskan when your snowblower gets stuck on your roof. And lastly, you know when you're an Alaskan when you think the start of moose season is a national holiday. Man, all of those are so true, so true. Jeff Foxworthy, you ain't got nothing on us. It's another installment of Surviving Alaska. This episode we're calling Not So Skinny Dipping. Sockeye are in the Kenai River. Last week I told you I was probably going to be going up and doing some dip netting on the Kenai, and I did. I went up with my dad and my uncle, and let me just say that it was a matter of not living or fishing. It was a matter of surviving the Kenai River. Have you done this? Have you been out in a boat on the Kenai? It's crazy. Last year, 540,000 fish were dip net in that fishery, dip netted out of the Kenai. And I don't know how many anglers that actually relates to, but there were so many boats. At some point, I really thought, that's it. We're going to be colliding with that skiff. No, not that one, now this one. No, not that one, now this one. It was insane, but well worth it. Now, we only got 23 fish on board. And you might be thinking, well, that's sort of minuscule. Was it worth the trip? It was absolutely worth the trip. It was a great day to survive in Alaska on the Kenai. But let me just tell you, if you're not prepared mentally for this, it will take you down, or you'll take somebody else down. You've got to go into it knowing that you're going to be going as full throttle up the river and then just drifting down the river. And there's going to be people all around you. And it's sort of interesting to watch this. Everybody, you can tell when somebody's new. You're like, oh, there's a new arrival, and they've not been drifting with you, and there's just sort of this wild-eyed look, and then they settle into a rhythm, and then everybody just cohesively gets along, and it works out. But I'm telling you, it's just insane. Now, they've taken the king salmon off of the ticket. You cannot keep a king salmon. I've been doing this now for about 7 years, and about 6-7 years ago, we'd get a king in our net, invariably, each season, and then for the last 5 in a row, none. Not a single king. And maybe your experience was different, but my experience was not a single king in the last 5 years. This year, when they close it down, two in one trip. What's going on with this? And we couldn't keep them. Oh, it was heartbreaking. It was like, you're a teenager and you finally get a date, and then your mom says, well, you're grounded tonight. It was just awful. It was horrible. So here's the rules on that in case you didn't know. It opened on July 10th. And there's a lot of restrictions, so you don't just go up there without knowing what you're doing, because, number one, it's not safe. Number two, think about this, 70% of the fishermen are from Anchorage, so they're nuts. No offense to any of you from Anchorage listening, but you're nuts. You're crazy, and you've got to follow the rules. So here's the deal, 25 salmon per ticket, 10 flounder. Who's keeping 10 flounder? Really? I'm not keeping one. I mean, I didn't see a single flounder. I mean, we caught plenty, but nobody was keeping them. But I guess you can keep up to 10. What do you even do with a flounder? I guess you could fillet it out. I've never had flounder. Huh. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of minuscule work. 10 flounder. Well, anyway, 1 permit per household, regardless of whether your residents are related. So if you live with your brother, only 1 ticket per household. It can't have 2. So you and your 26-year-old kid living at home with you, each of you can only fish on 1 permit. You can't each get 1. So, but here's the point of it. Alaska Wildlife Troopers will be checking for violators as throngs of visitors from around the state visit both the Kenai and Kasilap dip net fisheries, and they're on the lookout. You got to clip those little tails off, and you have to mark them right away. Not a bad idea if you're thinking about it to go ahead and bleed them out while they're still alive. I know it's kind of gross lunchtime talk, but I'm giving you good advice here on Alaska Matters. Today you'll have an opportunity to win Blackwater Bend Espresso gift cards. We want to send you out there for free during our Alaska Mind Bender. Jim Stearns will take us behind the scenes of Salmonstock. Now, this is the 2nd annual Salmonstock coming up. Jim will tell us all about that and his life in rock and roll, revealed in a new book coming out. All the details will be coming up on this program. So don't touch the dial, or Dave Becker will come and find you, and you'll no longer smile. We'll be back with more on Alaska Matters.
What's the first thing you turn to in the Homer News? Come on, you can tell me. Is it the police blotter that catches you first? Or how about that crazy cartoon? Or do you go straight for the letters to the editor to see what your wacky neighbors are up to? Well, the good news is there's no wrong answer. The Homer News can be consumed any way you like it, even online. HomerNews.com is updated daily. So this Thursday, whether you're alone or with somebody, get your copy of the Homer News and dive right in.
On the road to Anchorage the other day, in the distance, yes, I could see the bright lights of Blackwater Bend Espresso. While my gas tank was full, I was running on empty. Blackwater Bend Espresso, just what I needed. Along with my Black Mancino, which is a quad shot Americano in a 16-ounce glass without any cream, just like God intended it. I also got a ham and cheese croissant. I'm telling you, that was the highlight of my trip. Blackwater Bend Espresso, never leave Homer without it.
Now's the time to get those construction projects lined up for this summer. From excavating to landscaping, Breakwire Construction is the one to call to get it done. Call and talk to Richard about the work you'd like to have scheduled at 399-1526. Driveways, asphalt paving, water and sewer, land clearing and landscaping. Call 399-1526. 399-1526. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Breakwire Construction.
You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Chris Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. Today on the program, Mr. Jim Kearns, the man behind Salmonstock. But first, your chance to win a Blackwater Bend coffee card during our Alaska Mind Bender. When you want gourmet coffee or chai, or how about a cinnamon roll so soft and gooey it melts in your mouth and it's the size of my head, you need to stop out at Blackwater Bend Espresso. They're halfway between Homer and Anchor Point. Blackwater Bend, not your average drip. Here's the question. There's 2 coffee cards available. Because Tiffany's actually down in Vancouver, we're doing it a little different today. We're going to be asking you to send a text message to 299-7653, 299-7653, and send your answer there, and I'll let you know during the program. Oh, yes, thank you, Dave. And your name. Name and answer, 299-7653. Here's the question. The Chickagoff Island is home to the community of Hoonah in the panhandle of Alaska. Where does the Chickagoff Island rank size-wise in the U.S.? Now, this is geographically speaking, not population. Where does the Chickagoff Island rank size-wise in the United States? Is it A, the 5th largest island in the United States, B, the 109th largest island in the United States, or C, the 50th largest island in the United States? That's the Chickagoff Island, home to Hoonah, which is just fun to say. Kahuna actually is in Alaska. So send your answer and name to 299-7653. A listener just actually sent me a text and asked if I was no longer vegan, and that's not the case. To use a double negative, I am still vegan, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy fishing. Man. All right, 299-7653. My guest today is Jim Kearns, and Jim
Stearns
is no stranger. Stearns, thank you very much. Kearns is wrong. It's Stearns, Jim Stearns. No stranger to rock and roll and no stranger to Alaska. This is the second annual Salmonstock. We're going to get into that with Jim in just a little bit, but first, Jim Stearns, you were first introduced to some pretty famous rock and rollers back in the mid-'70s. How did that happen?
How did I hook up with them?
Yeah, how did that happen? I mean, were you out there looking, hey, I want to get involved in some pretty big acts here, or did they come to you? How did that go?
Well, it's an interesting story. I kind of outlined it in my book that I'm putting out. It's going to be out this next month. We started kind of a backwoods community in the Sierra Nevada back in the 70s, and we bought an old abandoned homestead out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by 15,000 acres of national forest, and started. And there was a bunch of abandoned cabins. We started remodeling everything, and over 10 years, we built the place into a kind of a wilderness resort. And it became very popular with all kinds of different kinds of people. It was just from people from all walks of life. And then finally, it got so popular that there was a musical venue about an hour's drive from our place, which everything was an hour's drive because it was way back in the backwoods. And it was only a 10-minute helicopter ride. So the rock and roll band started helicoptering into our wilderness resort and staying with us. And then at one point the Greatful Dead showed up, and they liked us so much and liked our service and our food, they asked us to go with them on the road and take care of them from that point forward.
Are you serious?
No, that's a true story.
Oh, that is incredible. So you met Jerry Garcia and the whole group.
Oh, we spent 10 years with them.
Wow. Well, back up a second, because you said rock and roll bands started coming over, and then the Dead. Who else? Who before you went out with the Dead for those 10 years? Who else did you meet?
Well, we met after that. We basically, the people that came to the ranch was like Huey Lewis and the News and Santana, bands like that would come. And then, but when the Grateful Dead came, they brought an entourage of 40 people.
Wow.
And so they stayed there 3 days, and because the Grateful Dead play. When they set up, they play 3 or 4 shows in a row in one spot, unlike almost any other band. And then once we got hired by the Grateful Dead to manage their hospitality, if you will, then Bill Graham basically hired us to run his entire hospitality situation. Bill Graham's pretty much the biggest promoter in the world at that time, and ran everything through most of California. And so any show that came through California, we pretty much handled. So we'd have sometimes 5 and 6 crews of people going out to different shows. You name the band, we did it.
No kidding. And when you're talking about hospitality, you mean everything from food prep, ground transportation? I mean, describe what would it be like to do hospitality for the Dead, let's say if they're going to a big city or a rural area.
Well, we would basically fly in our top people, which would be myself and our executive chef, 2 executive chefs, and a couple of other guys, and then we would start setting up. Then our crews would roll in with trucks and refrigerator trucks and tents and everything else. And if it was an outdoor show, we'd set up big tent structures and run in. We'd have to work with the promoter and run in electricity and water and everything, all kinds of equipment. And then we'd send people out. We'd start ordering. We'd set up purveyors and start bringing in mass quantities of food and start serving. The outdoor shows, sometimes we'd serve as many as 600 people per meal.
Wow! And these are concert goers, not just staff.
No, we weren't. We didn't have anything to do with the concert goers. Everything behind the stage. Everything behind the stage was our territory.
Oh wow! Well, so 600 people—that's incredible.
Well, you think about it. In an outdoor show, you've got all the bands, all their entourage, their guests. You've got the parking people, the security people. You've got the, even at Salmonstock, we've got a staff of 150, and it's compared to a Grateful Dead show, it's just a little peanut operation in a sense.
Right. 150 people. Well, let me ask you this real quick about Jerry Garcia, because I know I can read the mind of everybody listening. What did he like to eat? What was his favorite food?
He liked regular old hot dogs with French's mustard and sweet relish. And
wow.
in fact, there's a story. In fact, then as time went by, he he liked steaks. He liked pretty much junk food, a lot of junk food. But as time went by, he got kind of ill. So a lot of the management and his family and everybody wanted us to put him on what's called the McDougall diet, which is a non-fat, no-meat diet. So he got on the no-fat, no-meat diet towards the end of his life, but he didn't like it, and he just did it to go along because everybody knew he was the money, he was the kind of the bank, he was the money machine.
That's
everybody
right.
was trying to, and he would tell me kind of quietly, he'd say, go ahead and put that junk in my bag, and I'd slip a steak sandwich in the bottom underneath all that stuff or something.
Oh, that is classic. Are these just regular people to you, Jim? I mean, I'm listening to this sort of in awe, thinking these are people that I've seen on television. You've heard about, you read about them in the news. Just regular people to you? Were they good to you? Nice people? What were they like behind the
Well, the Grateful Dead themselves, the band themselves were great people. They're much more real and regular guys than many of the other bands. We met a lot of prima donnas in the music world, although not as many as we met in the movie world. I'll tell you that all we had to do was start working in the movie business to find out that rock and roll people were a cut above, in terms of genuineness, or a cut above movie people.
Interesting.
But anyway, yeah, the Grateful Dead were very real people. And Jerry Garcia, I think the most telling element of Jerry Garcia was he was very unimpressed with himself. He was very, very humble and very understated, and just really didn't suffer fools well, and just very quiet. And he, in fact, when they were elected to the Hall of Fame, he thought it was just a joke, so he didn't want to go to the Hall of Fame ceremony. So the rest of the band made a cardboard cutout of him and
They brought him along
as a cardboard cutout.
So he took his music and his fans pretty seriously, but he didn't take himself that seriously.
Yeah, he took his music and his fans seriously. He definitely he tried to do his play. I mean, he's almost become, and almost since death, he's become almost like the Martin Luther King of the hippie movement, if you will. I mean, it's like he's almost a symbol of the counterculture movement that emerged out of the 60s in some ways.
Well, that's fascinating. My guest is Jim Stearns. He's an author, he's a promoter, and a music enthusiast, and got a great story to tell. We're going to find out more about his book that's upcoming, and also Salmonstock and how you can get involved. More to come here on Alaska Matters. After this long winter, you deserve a break. Treat yourself to the joys of Alaska this summer and let Dutch Boy Landscaping take care of your lawn and yard work. Danny and his team are ready to make your property look its best. So when you see the bay is flat calm and the fish are biting, head out on the water and know your lawn's going to look its best all summer long. Dutch Boy Landscaping. Call Danny today at 235-7140. That's Dutch Boy Landscaping at 235-7140. Dutch Boy, your lawn's best friend.
Ready to become a homeowner? Deborah Lysick at Bay Realty has what might just be the perfect opportunity for you. A brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on Fairview Avenue. Cute as a button and affordable. It's a 5-star home with quality 2x8 construction tucked in the trees for maximum privacy. Act now and take advantage of an AHFC rebate for new construction property. You're going to love being a homeowner. Call Deborah Lysick at Bay Realty today at 235-6183. 235-6183 and get going. Remember, when you need results, Bay Realty works.
For Radio Realty, I'm Chris Story. How can you make sure you're getting the best deal you can when you invest in real estate? It's as simple as TIP. T is for timing. Measure the timing of the market and your life. I is for information. Get all of it you can up front. Do your homework. P is for price. The lowest price a great deal doesn't always make. And that's your real estate tip for today. Catch Radio Realty live every Wednesday at 12:30 on KPEN 102 FM.
You're listening to Alaska Matters. Okay, Blackwater Bend presents the Alaska Mindbender. If you've ever been to Hoonah, you'll maybe be able to answer this. On the Chigagof Island, it is home to Hoonah in the Panhandle of Alaska. It ranks geographically as what? The 5th largest island in the United States, the 109th largest island, or the 50th? And let me just say this will surprise you. That's your hint. We've gotten several answers, but it's not too late for you to text to me at 299-7653. 299-7653. Tell me your name and your answer. Is it the 5th, 109th, or 50th largest island in the United States? And we'll be sending you out to the Blackwater Bend for free. My guest is Jim Stearns, and when we last left, he was describing being on the road with the Dead for 10 years and some other bands, and that movie actors are indeed the biggest prima donnas that have walked the face of the earth. Let's talk about your book, Jim, before we get into the Salmonstock event coming up. Let's talk about your book a little bit. Is it autobiographical about your time with the Dead, or is it about rock and roll? What's it about?
Well, it's kind of a narrative about my experience, but then it obviously spins off into stories about all the, kind of starts with the Grateful Dead helicopters landing at our ranch in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And then it takes off from there about what happens to us as a community and our involvement and how it just, we went from, I think one of the chapters I call it, driver training to Daytona 500. I mean, basically we went from kind of this small, kind of low-key hippie community, if you will, in the backwoods of the Sierra Nevada to all of a sudden we were $1 million. In 6 months we were $1 million business,
Incredible. Now, did you sell the community or the ranch back there, or do you still have it?
Well, I tried to hang on to it, but what happened is it became, it was actually a very successful business, but on a small scale. But the key people obviously left with the Dead, so
Sure.
that our clientele came back to us. They would say, well, where's Jim, where's Doug, where's John, the people that ran the place. And so our business kind of out over a few years. And so then I tried to anyway, it became difficult to me. It's one of those places you have to live there. So
Yeah.
I subsequently have a guy that has a lease option on the place.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, did you have to get permission to write this book? Did you have to get permission from any of the, like the Grateful Dead representatives?
No, because it's just my story.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, cool.
So it's called Feeding the Dead.
Feeding the Dead. Awesome. Now, when does it come out? When is it going to be published?
I'm hoping to have it done by Salmonstock. I'm working with the publisher right now, a woman here in Homer that runs a publishing company called Wizard Works, and we're frantically trying to get it out by Salmonstock.
Excellent.
If not by Salmonstock, certainly the first week after Salmonstock.
Are there any stories in this book that are that will surprise people, maybe, that were fans of the Dead or some of the other notable people you write about?
I don't know if they'll be surprised, but they'll certainly be interested, because I have stories that basically nobody else has, because I had kind of a bird's eye. Also, one of the things I think that I am able to address more than almost anyone is I had a broader perspective of what was going on backstage, because I had to interface with everyone, from their guests to their staff to the promoters to the local promoters to the Grateful Dead production people. I interfaced and dealt with everyone, so I think I understood, to be honest with you, I think I understood the dynamics and the politics behind stage probably better than most anyone.
Do you stay in touch with anybody that was affiliated with the band at that time, or any other people?
I do. In fact, I'm flying down to a festival. Well, that's where I got Kreutzmann up here last year for the first Salmonstock. Bill Kreutzmann was one of the drummers in the Grateful Dead, and when I was brought on to help produce Salmonstock last year, I was able to. It was a last-minute thing. They were kind of falling apart, and I was able to scramble and to get Kreutzmann up here at the last minute, basically, last year. And Bill Kreutzmann and the Seven Walkers did an outstanding job, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Now, there's a lot of video out there on YouTube that you can check out. If you just go to YouTube, you can search it. Just search Salmonstock. You'll see all kinds of fun stuff. And I did see that guy, and I had no idea who they were. And so
he was the drummer from Grateful Dead. And then I'm going down to a festival I'm helping produce in California called Lazy Summer Days. And that's going to have Jerry Garcia's personal manager, Steve Parrish, who is the leader of the crew. He's going to be there, so I'm going to see him. And then Howard Danchek, who is the owner of the sound company, Ultrasound, who was another subcontractor that I worked with for many years, is a really good friend of mine. He's going to be there. And I don't see the band, because the band kind of spins off in their own world, but I see some of the players that I used to work with.
Well, and obviously, Jim, everything that you've written about in the book, Feeding the Dead, and just living your life up to this point in time, has brought you to Alaska and Salmonstock. So tell us a little bit, just briefly, about the leading up to Salmonstock, how it happened, and where can people check it out for more information?
Well, the Renewable Resources Foundation is the hosting organization that has spawned Salmonstock, and they tried to put this together last year, and they were struggling, and they didn't. And then through the grapevine, they heard that I was pretty experienced in this realm. they got a hold of me and asked me if I was interested in joining up and helping them produce the show. So I jumped in last year about late May and was able to kind of whip a lot of stuff into place, and we put together quite a festival. And it was very, as I said, our goal last year was artistic and operational success, and I think we met that goal in spades. And we didn't get over the top economically, but you don't ever plan on doing this.
Well, I mean, you had some 3,000 people attend. I don't know how many bands, but talk to me about how many bands are going to be coming this year and the dates and the venue.
Yeah. Well, it's August 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and it's at the Kenai Peninsula Fairgrounds. We have 4 stages, over 40 bands. I think we have 10 national acts coming up. We have right now I'm in the process of organizing 60 flights and ground transportation, hotel rooms, and on and on. We take care of all these people. Then we probably have, like I said, we have 4 stages. We have a late-night venue. We have 3 stages during the day that are all going to be staggered for the most part, so you don't have to feel conflicted. We have some fantastic artists. That are Leftover Salmon, Robert Randolph, and the Family Band, and Oz and Motley are all nationally renowned acts at headline festivals all over the lower 48. Anybody who does, my goal last year, I said, it was to make it so anybody who came to the show was really glad they came, and anybody who didn't come was going to be sorry they didn't. And I think we made that goal, and I think we're going to make it again more this year.
Yeah, well, that's cool. 10 national bands. Anybody's name that's going to stand out above the others?
Well, if anybody's familiar with the music business, Leftover Salmon is a monster headline. As I've told people say, well, what about last year you had Bill Kreisman from the Grateful Dead and the Seven Walkers? And I tell people the Seven Walkers and Bill Kreisman, as strong as they are, would be 4th on our bill this year. They would be the 4th listed headliner on our bill.
Wow.
So if you're familiar with the music world, you know that our top 3 headliners are monster acts. And if you don't, you can take my word for it.
Then come up and check them out. You might become a new fan.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens. And that's what our goal is, to start selling tickets to the event itself. People start trusting the fact that you're going to put on a tremendous show. They don't even stop. They stop caring who you have because they know it's going to be great.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like this thing is taking on a life of its own. And I talked to people last year that went and what was it, 3 days last year or 2 days?
Just 3 days.
3 days. And they went each and every day thinking the first time they was just going to stop in, and then they got sucked into this thing, and I'm sure they'll be going back this year, and myself will be going. I don't know if we'll make all 3 days, but I'm definitely going to go at least one day. Where can we go online to check out some more details about this?
Salmonstock.org has all the information you could possibly. It has a schedule. It has all the thing about our vendors, all the cause, the elements of the cause that we're promoting here as far as trying to protect the Bristol Bay watershed, and on and on. Our Education Awareness Center, we got a multitude. We got this new Stoyahawk dancers coming. We got fire dancers. We try to put on a kind of a visual and auditory extravaganza, if you will.
That's incredible. I was going to say fire dance. This is amazing. And here's what I really love about it. Regardless of your political beliefs or your social views of Pebble Mine or what have you, this reminds me of what Mother Teresa said. That she said, I won't attend your anti-war protest, but I'll gladly march for peace. Call me if you have a march for peace. And I see this movement as less about anti-anything and more about pro-wild salmon of Alaska and preservation of one of the last remaining resources of its kind in the world.
That's exactly right.
All right. Jim Stearns, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being my guest on Alaska Matters.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. And we'll be sure to check out Jim's book, Feeding the Dead. That's going to be awesome. And then, of course, as Jim just mentioned, salmonstock.org is where you can go get more information about the upcoming show. Blackwater Ben presented the Alaska Mindsbender. And Hoonah, Gary and Rick, you both knew that, in fact, Hoonah, not the island, but Chichagof Island, home to Hoonah, is the 5th largest island in the United States. Dave, take a guess as where it ranks in the world.
I was kind of surprised about the 5th in the U.S.
Me too, and that's geographic, not population. It's the 109th largest island in the world.
Wow.
5th largest in the United States, and think about Hawaii, I mean, I can't believe that this island, home to Hoonah, Chichagof, I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but I'm saying it with such authority that I don't think it matters. So I want to thank Rick and Gary. Both of you were right. I want to thank everybody else that played along. And next time, you'll have a chance. Join me tomorrow for Radio Realty on 102 FM, KPEN. We're going to be talking about all kinds of great stuff. Tony Robbins and the whole Firewalk thing, I've got to touch on that. Are you sold on gold? I'll describe. Alaska real estate and a whole lot more. That's tomorrow at 12:30 on 102 FM. Miss a minute, you Could miss a million. That's on Radio Realty. Dave, it's been just a pleasure as always. And Tiffany, of course, as I said, is down in Vancouver. She said to say hello to everyone.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So I did. Well, I was talking to everybody else. She didn't say hello to Dave. She said to say hello to everyone. So I guess you count in there. I guess you count. I don't want to make you feel bad. By the way, Dave, you're looking great.
Thank
and all
you,
I can say is way to go, Alaska Training Room.
Yes, sir. That's right.
All right. Well, I just want to remind you that matters of importance are Alaska matters.
Forgettable favorites. Great listening.